As me as an entrepreneur, if I understand what is happening with the consumer, I will know how that's going to affect my business. To me, there's leading indicators and then there's lagging indicators. In your business, you should be able to see those leading indicators. It's your responsibility to know what those things are. You have to know their needs and their situation and their problems better than they know them. Let's say in my business, right? We match people that clean houses to people that need their house cleaned. So I know that generally I have to look at, first of all, the consumer, the person that needs their house cleaned. What is that person facing? That person might be in a situation where they are facing rising gas prices, rising grocery prices. So I'm looking at it as like, okay, where does my services fall on their, hierarchy and spend? I had to understand what that person is going through. Those are all the leading things. The lagging things are the external things that you might think have no direct impact on your business in that moment, but they will later down the line, right? Something like rising interest rates, that's going to affect the market because that can potentially push us into a recession. If we go into a recession, what does that mean? Unemployment is going to go up. If unemployment goes up, what does that mean? People aren't working as much. If people aren't working as much, what does that mean? Companies are laying people off. Wages are going down. That means my consumer, they now have less money. Now they took a pay cut.
Yep.
I have to position myself to be able to be in a position to where whenever that happens, it doesn't affect me as much. There's a lot of business owners, a lot of entrepreneurs out here. You're not even thinking. Like a lot of people are not even aware. Like you're just kind of going. You're just kind of doing the same thing you was doing last year.
Yo, you're listening to the Money Monopolizers podcast, helping you take control of your financial destiny. It's about time that we invest more in our financial literacy and work towards building generational wealth. If you think you're ready to do the same, then you've come to the right place. Alex, Marlon, y'all ready? Let's get this bread.
What's good, everybody? It's Alex Camuno here, and we are back with episode 139 of the Money Monopolizers podcast. I'm here with my co-host, Marlon Walls. Marlon, how you doing today, bro?
Doing good. I can't wait till you say the next episode title because it'll be episode 140. Dang, we could keep on going through.
We're almost at 150.
I swear, it's gonna be a celebration in itself, right there.
Yeah, I mean, it was almost a year since episode 100.
That's wild. Yeah. Bro, time is flying. Like we're actually about to be in July. Like within the next. When is the episode release?
It'll be episode release the day before July.
God dang! Wow. So
June 30th.
Yep. So June 30th will be today. That's crazy. So, everything's been going good though. So that means we're this is the half year mark.
Yep, halfway.
It's wow.
End of Q2.
Q2. And so everything has been going really good. I will say this has been a journey of a year for sure as far as within the business. I want to kind of give a brief overview of how everything's been going for me as far as within our business, rental car business. Me and my dad started a couple years ago.
Yeah.
And we started with just one car. We scaled up to actually I think we acquired 12 in 2021. Now we're at the point where we are officially getting all of our cars in our business name.
Really?
That's been the most exciting thing. Is because I know I've been talking about the previous few episodes was trying to get more of our getting more of these lines of credit from these different lenders. Yeah. Now we finally get, I think I mentioned last week, we had two of them that we got approved for. One of them I need to get my dealer's license. So I'm on a route to getting that one. That way we'll be able to go buy cars at auctions as opposed to buying them at dealerships. But another one actually provides leases directly to us. Really? And these are all through our business though. So now we actually got our first one already under contract with them, and they'll be sending it. Yes.
Oh, nice.
So I think we should be receiving it actually by the time this releases. I'm gonna have to follow up with them to make sure, but we already signed the contracts though and everything. So that's exciting. Yes, very big monumental step. So now, as far as our acquisition strategies, it's completely changed. So we used to do the partner strategy. Now we don't have to do that anymore. The same thing with a lot of people financing their personal name. We're not doing that anymore either. So that's what it ties a lot into what I want to talk about today. Anyways,
what happened with the other partners then? So they're just gonna not renew?
It's the partner strategy. It's been a lot of learning with that. That's why I said this year has been a lot of learning experience.
So with those current ones, what are they gonna do? Because y'all still have vehicles that are partnered.
We do. So I think at the end of their term, it'll probably end up taking the cars back and just closing it up altogether. Because it hasn't really been everything that they wanted for it to be. It's been a lot of learning. I think I could teach a whole course just on that at this point, as far as how to do partnership strategies the right way. Yeah. But I would say it's been invaluable for us as far as really becoming more knowledgeable about like what our plan was and how our business plan needs to look for our business. Right. And so even every L could be a lesson rather than just a loss. So that was my biggest takeaway. But that's really propelled us to where we are today, though. I think without having the partner cars at that moment, we wouldn't be able to know how to operate a business at a high scale, and that we actually wouldn't even look good to the lenders that we're working with right now. So all of it did play a big part in that.
But I think that's the beauty of just like, again, taking action is just, you go based on what you know in that moment, and the rest will unfold the way it's exactly supposed to. Because I think that in itself is like it's so simple, but it's so simple, but it's simple, but it's not easy. Yeah. Right. So like to continue to just like keep doing that and keep moving forward, even through whatever, all these different obstacles. Because I know it's been tough. It's been a crazy journey. Just the fact that you're just not getting the cars in the business, and like that tells you.
We've had this business for 2 years. Yeah. And I think so. We get this question all the time. Is people always ask how to get my cars in my business name. It's not easy. Like
it took 2 years.
It actually requires you to go through a 2-year period of figuring it out. Yeah, that's what I've learned more than anything else. It is a straight up weed out period. And I've talked to these banks I'm talking to. I asked them, I'm like, who services brand new businesses? And they're like, why would we do that for? Because what have you shown to show that you're going to be in this business for long enough? Yeah. Like you haven't shown us anything. You don't have any cars. You have like 2 cars. That's easy. That's a way different running 20. Yeah. So they're like, we're not going to work with somebody that's brand new because you haven't shown any reason to prove to us that you're going to be responsible for our money. We're giving you an asset. Yeah. We want to know we're going to get a good return on our investment. Right. So how can you show that to them? Either through longevity, through experience, through like some type of receipt. Like, do you have your proper financial documents in order? Do you have anything to show that they'll make their return on their money? Right. And if you don't, then they're not going to work with you. It's not as a business, not as your personal name. They come after your personal loan. Right. It's a whole different type of loan at that point. And now if you start using it for business use, you're in violation of your contract. Yeah. So it's just it's been a very long journey with it, but I would say it's been very rewarding too, just to know that just like the stick-to-itiveness and like sticking it through has gotten us to this point now, and that's really where we're going to start seeing a ramp of growth now.
Yeah, that's going to be exciting to watch the progression from here, because I think that's what all this is about. Like it's about the journey to get there. Like this is. At the end of the day, bro, it's a lot easier to just have a 9-to-5 job and make your money that way and kind of go on. But there's a reason all this is, you kind of going through all this. So it's gonna be interesting or exciting, really, to see the next year and then the year after that. Like every year, it's always.
You can look at it in phases of years. That's why I like to say the 1 car in the first year, the 10 cars the second year. Yeah. But now this year, I know my initial goal was to get to 100. I know that it's still possible. Now I'm like starting to refine how do I want it to look, because I'm really working more on the business model of it, of like how do we want to make sure that our cars are staying marketed to the right people. And that's a whole nother aspect that we've been working on a lot lately too. And as far as like getting our own personal parking lot, things like that, it's a part of where I'm thinking of now. Pretty much it's continuously establishing structure to bring in the extra cars that we want to get, right. And also not getting them the way I initially thought we were going to, which would have been through partnership strategy. And now I'm like, okay, wait, we can use our own business now to do this. Yeah. And that's really what I want to move more towards. And it's because it's a lot more control over like us buying the cars and also being able to sell them. And that's where dealer's license come into play. It's a lot of little moving parts that I've been working on. So it's going to pay off in dividends in the future, though. I already know that.
Yeah, I know it's going to be. And that's at the end of the day, it's like you had the goal at the initial point of the year. Even if, like, at the end of the day, the goal itself is just like, okay, to get 100 cars. I got 100 cars. But if the 100 cars is just, not profitable, or if I got them all for the sake of having 100 cars, it's like if I can go get 100 units, but, if none of them cash flow me, and I'm still at my job, I just bought myself a job.
To manage these 100 cars for no money.
Yeah, now was it an ego play, or what was the reason you was doing that? So at the end, you gotta really just look at it like that. So even if you didn't get the 100 cars, but you structured the business right, and I would rather have 30 cars with a nice structure than 100 cars just running all willy-nilly.
That's so real, because I actually met a guy at one of the conferences I went to, and he said he has 37 cars in his personal name.
Oh my God.
And I'm looking at our cars are 24. I'm like, I'd rather have my 24 than your 37. You in a worse situation than me.
37 in your personal name.
37 in his personal.
Dude, you would never buy a house.
His question is, how do I get these cars out of my business name? I'm like, because some of the cars have 100,000+ miles on them, 200,000, like breaking down. I'm like, there was no plan in place. That's also.
How did he even get that for 37 cars in his personal name? That's crazy.
I mean, there's a play you can run where you just continue to if you buy like all your cars like within a short amount of time, you can get a lot. Plus, he leveraged multiple people. I think
because they don't go into your thing before the other banks.
The debt doesn't hit your account immediately or your credit immediately. So as long as your debt right. So it's like that's a short term strategy in my opinion, which has long term ramifications if you don't know how to. If you don't structure it well, or if you want to try to get out early, like you pretty much are committing at that point. If you say you about to get 30 of them, but there needs to be like a revolving strategy. Like, how are you going to get these cars in and out of your name?
That's at the end of the day, that's what it means being an entrepreneur.
Yes, like very much.
Which is what we're going to get into in this episode. So
yes, sir. How everything been for you just in life? What's up?
Oh man, everything's great, man. Like, so the obviously when this release, like we were saying, it'll be the end of the first half of the year, end of Q2, and that means I know in a couple episodes ago we talked about the potential recession and all that kind of stuff that I believe is still coming. That will get announced within the next few weeks, I believe so, by economists and even the Federal Reserve and all of them. They're gonna probably announce that soon, just because now it's by book definition of a recession is 2 consecutive quarters of negative growth, and so that depending on what the numbers look like after this quarter, which we'll know in July, but that's what I'm saying. So that I've just really been focused on developing new skills that are going to help me in this period, or that will be valuable in this period of uncertainty. So that's really, I don't want to really get too much into it, but that's really like the number one thing I've been working on, and it's been I've made a lot of progress this week, and I think over the next few months it'll be interesting to see kind of how things play in that regard, how things kind of unfold in that regard. But I'm excited, man. It's a lot of just what is the word I'm looking for? That it's like you're just excited for the future, just to kind of see how things are going to be. Like you just want to peek into the future. Like I want to peek into next year. I want to peek to a year from now. I really want to peek for like 5 years from now, but
yeah, I would literally meet 30-year-old me. I can't wait to meet that guy. I know. I really want to look back at this episode now when I'm 30 and be like, yeah, this to poor you didn't get to meet me. I hope I'm saying that. Or be like, I wish I was you. I'd rather not be saying I wish I was 26-year-old me. That'd be way worse.
Hopefully, if the 30-year-old version of you is a bum, then that's unfortunate. Yeah. Like, is there anything I can do to not become you?
Right. Like, let her talk to that future me and be like, so how'd you get here? Hopefully it's in a good way.
Either way, shoot, even if you're a bum.
That way we're not to.
I know what not to do. It's like that, because remember, like I was saying a couple episodes, I believe that guy exists on another universe. Like there's a bum version of you.
I hope you go find him too.
I don't want to meet that guy. I don't want to meet that guy.
What did you do wrong so I can make sure I don't do that?
Yeah. He would be depressed me. I'm like, dude, especially because he'll look like you and everything. And he's just a bum. Like, bro, what happened? You had so much promise. You were better at 21.
That's sad, man.
But nah, that's kind of just how I've been feeling over the last few days. I'm optimistic about things, even in this time of who knows what will happen. But the business has been pretty passive, so that's allowing me to focus on anything else that I really want to do. So
I think the name of the game is proactiveness, though. Like I know for us, we're definitely not really necessarily pivoting, but at the same time, we are also creating like other income sources based on our current business, like with the rental cars. Like we're just continuously seeking out how can we make additional money from the cars before it even hits and like before it becomes mainstream, like for the recession and stuff, before people stop spending. Like what can we do differently to stay relevant? What can we do to make sure that we're bringing in money no matter, and servicing, really I think the key has been servicing industries that would not be as affected. Like consumer, like people that are traveling, they may not travel as much, but that's not the only people you can rent out cars to.
Right.
So it's about who else can you rent out, who else can your business serve, and then seeking out how can you get in front of those people.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, it's like, if you want to be an entrepreneur, you want to get into entrepreneurship, that is how you have to think. Like that is it is your responsibility to be thinking like that, because nobody's going to be thinking like that for you. You can have all these employees, you can have, you know, whatever, another partner, but if you're the CEO, if you're the founder, whatever, if it is your own business, then, you know, at the end of the day, it is your responsibility, which kind of leads us into the topic that we want to kind of get into today, which is I think it's a very I think the timing is right in this point in time to kind of talk about this in terms. I think a lot of people right now really, there's just been this huge entrepreneurship craze over the last, I don't know, really decade or so, I would say. Definitely over the last 5 years. But it's been like a huge entrepreneurship. Everybody, like, you know, we heard of the Great Migration. Everybody quitting their job last year, like the most number of, you know, people quit their jobs ever last year. And you know, a lot of people were just trying to be entrepreneurs, start their own business. But it's like, yo, and I know we talked about this I think we talked about this twice last year, actually, this kind of topic, but we want to take a different angle with it, just in the sense that, like, a lot of people need to really, like, understand what the DNA of an entrepreneur looks like, right? What is the makeup of an entrepreneur? How does an entrepreneur actually, like a good entrepreneur, not just an entrepreneur, anyone could be an entrepreneur. If you don't have a job and you have, you know, you have LLC, you can say you're an entrepreneur. But what is a good entrepreneur? How do they operate? What do they actually think about? And I think a big part of that is just, you know, that thinking aspect. Like, man, how, like, it's the number one thing. Like, I know you always say it's like, that's the number one job as an entrepreneur.
I tell my employees, that is literally my one word job description.
Yeah, it's just the think.
Yes, and it encompasses so many things. It's pretty much everything of working on the business, like nothing of working in it. Like, that's the difference you'll see between the self-employed mentality person versus the business owner, is that the self-employed is just thinking, I'm gonna go start a business for the sake of doing the same work that I was doing at somebody else's job, but doing it for myself. That is not an entrepreneur. That is not the business owner. I'm gonna say you can all be lumped as entrepreneurs, but a business owner and somebody that is that's actually going to be able to scale their entire operation is not thinking, I'm going to just translate from working at my 9 to 5 to doing the same work for myself.
No, and you can't, because at the end of the day, it's a different role. Like, when you have a job, there's someone that is an entrepreneur in that job, right? Like, in that company, there's always in any job, there's always an entrepreneur, right? There's obviously levels to it, but there can be an entrepreneur too, which is someone that is high up as well, but they don't necessarily have the same responsibilities of the entrepreneur, but they're responsible for thinking like an entrepreneur. But, you know, the ramification consequences aren't as bad for them as it would be for the true entrepreneur. The difference between an entrepreneur and an intrapreneur is the entrepreneur has their money put up. That's the only difference, really. The intrapreneur didn't put up their own money. They just came in, but they got hired to think like the entrepreneur. So that's like your COO, CFO, like all the C-suite executives, all the higher up executives in a company. We're talking like, you know, bigger companies. But even on a lower company too, this is how you have to think of, like, as a new entrepreneur, this is how you should be thinking of your business. Is like, this is something I want to grow into a big company. Even if you don't necessarily want to do that, you have to be thinking of it like that, because that's the only way you can continue to grow and sustain it, if at the minimum. And so I think, well, let me say this. To me, I think one of the biggest things that, and this, I think this, we did talk about this when that episode didn't get released. We had this kind of conversation in that episode.
I think you're right. Yeah.
That didn't get released. That's why I'm remembering it. But because the audio, to me, the biggest thing about thinking like an entrepreneur and understanding the DNA of and the makeup of an entrepreneur is being able to be thinking forward, right? And understanding that, like, as the CEO, as the entrepreneur of this company, then I'm responsible for knowing what is the external factors that are, you know, affecting us and will in turn affect me, affect all my employees, and affect possibly, you know, those people, their families and all that kind of stuff. Whose job is it to think of that? So it's the entrepreneurs. So to me, like, in this period right now that we're in with, you know, the recession and like all this stuff going on, there's a lot of business owners, there's a lot of entrepreneurs out here. You're not even thinking of the fact that there's a potential, like, a lot of people are not even aware. Like, you're just kind of going, you're just kind of going through doing the same thing you was doing last year, doing the same thing you was doing in 2020, whenever we were sitting in a, kind of manipulated, fake up prop market. You can't do the same thing that you were doing then now, because, times are going to change. And I've been seeing those signals even in my business too, where it's like people aren't necessarily spending as much, right? Where, last year, I know we had like a whole lot of recurring bookings coming in regularly. Now we don't get as many as as regularly, because a lot of people, they're just like, I can't commit to spending that amount. So that's kind of like you can see, like, to me, there's leading indicators and then there's lagging indicators. To me, in your business, you should be able to see those leading indicators.
That's perfect.
Like, you have to be aware of what those leading indicators are that are telling you that you might need to pivot, that times are changing, that things are about to change. It's your responsibility to know what those things are. Those leading indicators could be, and it's not even something as simple as like, we're not making as much money,
right?
Because to me, that's too primitive of thinking. You have to really think of it on a deeper level, in the sense of like, okay, let's say we're not making as much money. Is it because of something that we're doing internally, or is it because of something happening on the external?
It's start off with the question of why, or more anything else, and then just starting to break it down. It's like, what are the possible answers, and then breaking it down further to see are all these boxes checked? Is within each answer, whether it's internal or external, like are we making sure that we're doing our marketing? Are we continuously doing marketing, or is there an external factor that's affecting the way that we're able to get conversions, anything like that?
Because to me, if we're sitting in a time where, like, people are going, as me as an entrepreneur, if I understand what is happening with the consumer, I will know how that's going to affect my business. Yeah. So I know the consumer, or whoever your consumer is, whoever your customer is, whoever your client is, you have to understand what's happening with that. And that's what business is about. You have to know their needs and their situation and their problems better than they know them themselves.
Yes, sir.
So to me, I know that the consumer, let's say in my business, right? We provide, we match people that clean houses to people that need their house cleaned. So I know that I have two consumers I have to look at. Right, it's a peer-to-peer labor market kind of thing. So I know I have two clients, and that's similar to Uber. Like, Uber has two clients that they have to look at. You have to balance the drivers. They have to balance the riders, and same thing in my business. So I know that generally I have to look at, okay, first of all, the consumer, right, the person that needs their house cleaned, whatever. What is that person facing? So I know generally that person right now might be in a situation where they're facing, obviously, if something I'm facing, they're facing it too, right? So I know that I'm facing, rising gas prices. I know that I'm facing rising grocery prices. I know I'm facing, or not me personally, but I know people are facing rising rents. And I'm house hack, so I don't have to really worry about it. In fact, I'm increasing the rent. Okay, no, I'm playing. I am increasing the rent though, but oh my god, that'd be thrown. Okay, so that person is facing like those things. So I know, if I'm facing similar things, I know that person is facing things. So I'm looking at it as like, okay, if this person, they're going through these things, where does my services fall on their level of, hierarchy and spending? That's
exactly the next question.
So I have to look at that and be realistic and know, okay, these people probably won't necessarily consider this a priority. And you can see that. And like I said, I saw that there aren't as many people booking recurring revenues, meaning last year when everyone had money, you're like, yeah, I get my house clean every week. Yeah, weekly. Yeah, I can spend $200 a week getting my house clean. But today, whenever your gas is twice as expensive, 3 times as expensive, you're like, maybe I can just do it once a month. Get my house clean instead, right? And so I had to understand what that person is going through. And those, to me, again, those are all the leading things. The lagging things are the external things that you might think have no control or no direct impact on your business in that moment, but they will later down the line, right? So I know something like rising interest rates, that's going to affect a lot of people. That's going to affect the market, because that can potentially push us into a recession. If we go into a recession, what does that mean? Unemployment is going to go up. If unemployment goes up, what does that mean? People aren't working as much. If people aren't working as much, what does that mean? Companies are laying people off. Wages are going down. That means my consumer, they now have less money. Now they got it. Now they took a pay cut.
Yep.
So now I have to be thinking of that too. So I have to position myself to be able to be in a position to where whenever that happens, it doesn't affect me as much. So, yeah. But again, the biggest thing here is thinking. Like a lot of people, you're not even thinking.
The whole sequence you just said, that was all the thought process of what's the lead indicator and how does that affect the lag indicator? How does that affect the overall result?
Exactly.
That all part of there was the thinking piece of it.
Yeah, and that's just why like a lot of people aren't cut to be entrepreneurs. At the end of the day, we just gotta keep it 100. A lot of people, I'm not saying you can't do it, but if you can't think like that, you're not gonna do it successfully. Because who's going to think like that for you? That's the key here. Nobody's gonna think like that for you. If you're not gonna do it, then you need someone else that's going to do it for you. Like, and that's, again, if you have an entrepreneur, the CEO, whatever, then they can do that for you. But the biggest thing here is that somebody has to do it. A lot of people, you get into business and you're just kind of going on vibes. You're in a frothy market or manipulated market. Everybody has money. You think you know business. You think you're good as an entrepreneur, but you're struggling because you're in a situation where things changing and you are getting affected by it and you don't even know why. So that's what, to me, the biggest that I want to hear your thoughts on it, but to me that was like, what entrepreneurs is the number one thing.
Oh yeah, I think that was a huge one in itself. One thing I thought about with everything you were saying was you have to really understand who is your dream customer, who's your target audience. Yeah. I think that was the foundation of it, because that person has an entire makeup. Like I remember you talked about Mr. Mom way back when, as far as like identifying that person, because this is a person that may be a situation where they're doing a lot of the work day to day and they don't have time to go clean up the house and everything when they get back. But at the same time, they also have internal and external factors that may affect their ability to continue to pay your prices or to continue to work with you in business. And so you have to take into consideration those things too, because that will affect your overall profitability of your business. And so then you start thinking in result to, I think this is the next part of it, when there are certain people that, or not even people, there are certain customers or certain target audiences that you can have that may not see the same effect. And so I guess going to like more of our side with the rental car business, there are consumers that are travelers. Like that's a specific type of target audience. That's somebody that they're spending money because of leisure. That type of person, they may be in high demand during the summer. Like they may continuously like book out our cars during the summer months, or just like during spring break. You have to think about when are they traveling and why are they traveling? They're traveling because they have vacation time at work, and now they can take that time off. They have extra disposable income. They may have got tax refund checks. These times are when you have peak demand. But what happens when a recession hits and there are layoffs happening? Now those people that had discretionary money to start spending, they may not have that anymore. So now you start thinking in your business, is there anybody else in the industry that I can service that actually needs my cars? Like there was people who need your services and people who just want your services. That has been the biggest epiphany moment for me, is that you can target both. To be honest, I would in order to be recession proof, you need to have the people in your business that need your business. Those people, once the recessionary times hit, you need to be targeting them on full fledged. Like who needs rental cars? Not necessarily who wants them. Let's say somebody that does still have a job, but their car just got into an accident. That person needs a car to still get to work. That person still needs a car just to get around day to day and to go to the grocery store and things like that. So how can you get in front of those people? Like this is where the thinking comes into play. But you have to be forward thinking and say, if these people that want my cars ever don't want them, how can I continue to stay relevant?
That's the key.
And so now when you have that initial first question of how can I continue moving forward, that's where you start presenting the new innovative ideas to keep your business afloat and relevant. Like that's where the people who need your cars come into play. And now your marketing strategies can pivot during those times where the people who want your cars may not be there.
And I love that, because it's to me, it's understanding that times won't always be how they are. So understanding that, I know that even if I'm thriving right now in the business, but I know like if in your instance, for whatever, if you're only, clientele or the only person paying you was someone that doesn't need your business, then you have to understand that is a potential bottleneck of your business. That is a potential, threat to the success or even the withstanding of your business alone. So again, that thinking of is what a lot of people don't even think about as the entrepreneur, because you come in with the employee mindset where as an employee, your only job is just to react to whatever the entrepreneur does, whatever the entrepreneur of that company says. So if the as an employee, if the entrepreneur says, hey, we're going to be cutting your pay, there's nothing you could do. Now, but when you take here's the thing about business versus being an employee, right? Because in your business, if you take a pay cut in business, you can always figure out a way to make more money. But as an employee, if you take a pay cut, you take a pay cut. That's it. And so when you come into entrepreneurship with the same mentality as an employee, then when you take a pay cut in business and you're just okay with that, you're not going to last long. Mm-hmm. Because that is, to me, I think every business goes through a period where it's like, there's a question where like, dang, are we going to,
that's a fact.
Are we going to actually make it?
Yeah.
Like, are we going to, every business, I don't think there's a business.
Nobody's excluded from that. I don't think.
No. All the big, you can even look at Amazon. Go literally look at their history in the first couple of years. He had to get loans from family. Jeff Bezos got loans from family and friends to keep the business alive, and Tesla too. I mean, Elon Musk didn't found Tesla, but it was there was a point where even now, I literally just saw an article yesterday on CNBC. He was saying it's like they're losing a lot of money right now, and there's a risk of bankruptcy for Tesla. And I don't know, I feel like a lot of people aren't talking about that, but I did see that. And to me, like those are, I think he's an outstanding entrepreneur. He's gonna figure out a way to get them, through that situation. They're having issues with like, the factories and stuff in China and stuff like that. But like a lot of the stuff that happens within you as an entrepreneur, you have some sort of say into the solution. You can find a solution to fixing these problems and these issues. But all of it, the best thing is thinking about it before you actually have to, right? Thinking about it in a time where like, I don't necessarily need to do this. And so like, I know, earlier this year, one thing I was doing was the commercial cleaning and stuff like that. That's not necessarily something I'm doing now in the business, but I understand that is another alternative for the business to, if I want to continue to sustain it whenever, consumer, direct to consumer demand drops, because companies, business, they're always going to need their facilities clean no matter what. As long as there's people inside a building, they're going to have to be clean. No matter what recession or anything is going on, they're always going to have to be clean. Same thing for you. There's people out there that, they're always going to need those cars.
I'm about to say, you may see a dealership that need loaner cars. That's somebody who somebody who needs your cars to continue to operate their business. That's why there's a thing called B2B, business to business, versus B2C, business to consumer. Yeah. Those businesses, you need, like, finding people who actually need your services to continue to operate efficiently, that's the people that you can count on to be there when the leisure spending is gone.
Yeah. And a lot of people are like, well, how do I find it?
This is the part. That's the next question for the entrepreneur to figure out.
That's what your job as the entrepreneur is, to figure out, how do you do that? Now you got to answer. Now it's to figure out how to implement it. That's why I said it's easier to get a job. It's much easier to get a job because they tell you what to do and you do it. Here, there's nobody telling you what to do. First, you have to figure out what to do. Right. Now you got to figure out how to do it. So, if you want, welcome to entrepreneurship.
That is and especially for me, that's why I've said this has been such a journey this year, because that has been the epitome of what this year has been. It's like there's an unanswered question, and the people that I've been like in networks with already do not have that answer. Yeah. And so now it's like, what do you do next? Because most people are accustomed to, if somebody has a question, they can just go ask their social media influencer that's been teaching them or something like that. Yep. But now it's like, okay, once you have surpassed a lot of social media influencers and now you're in your own space, like with me, who do you know on social media that is becoming a rental car agency that is operating like a enterprise? I don't know any of them.
Nobody. You're the pioneer.
Right. That's what I'm saying. I'm paving the way for a lot of people for in that space. So the questions that I have or that I run into, there are no people that just have the answer. So now the number one question as the entrepreneur is, how do you still figure it out? And most people are. I don't personally believe most people are willing to do that part.
No, and that was one thing I wanted to. That was the next thing I wanted to get into too. Like as the entrepreneur, it's like, the work that's required to get. Once you figured out the answer, the work to actually implement it, that's the barrier that keeps a lot of people from getting to the next level. Because at the end of the day, it's like most people, you just not are willing to put in the kind of work and effort. It's just effort, bro. Like it requires it's two things to me. It's like an effort and like a perseverance, because it's always a point where it's like, yo, you just want to quit, and this is like not working, and no matter what you do, it seems like nothing's working. But the perseverance to get through that, to me, that trait is probably the number one trait, like, of a successful
ones, most definitely,
is someone that can make it through those periods of times when it's difficult. Because at the end of the day, when times is good, anybody can make it.
Yeah.
Like, that's why I said in the last couple episodes, like, who the heck couldn't make money in business?
Yep.
Last few years, last 5-10 years, like, anybody can make money. People have money. But when it's tough, like, now who's going to persevere? Like, those, to me, those are the real entrepreneurs. And to me, that's why the recession, to me, is necessary, because it separates the two. Like, that's the point where it's like, you know, those people that are actually real, like, they rise to the top, and the people that aren't, everybody's sitting on the same level,
right? But
whenever there's an external factor or catalyst that affects everyone, now those people drop and these people raise.
Yep. And
that separation is very evident at that point. You see a lot of businesses go out of business. You see a lot of people become millionaires. Like, you see it firsthand whenever these kind of events happen. But at the end of the day, the only difference between that set of people is one of them is just really, they just weren't going to quit.
Right.
Like, there was nothing that you could have thrown at them that they were going to quit. It's not even about, like, when is this, like, is this going to happen? It's just when it happens. Like, it's all about when, not if. Like, because I know that at some point I will have that eureka moment.
Yes.
I will have that. I will have that, like, oh, this is what I needed, because I've exhausted so many other options.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to have that moment where it's like, oh, this is it. But you're not going to get to that. I love that, you know, that 3 Feet from Gold story by Sharon Lecter and the Napoleon Hill Fund. Like, that is one of my favorite books, just because it's like for those that don't know, the premise of it is that there's, like, well, I don't know, I'll just use the meme just because it's the simplest explanation. There's two people digging for the diamonds, and one of them stops 3 feet from getting there because, you know, you're digging, you feel like I've been digging this whole time, and eventually you just get tired of digging.
And he was actually closer to the diamonds than the other person.
He was closer to the diamond than the person that was starting behind him.
Yep.
The person behind him never stopped, but eventually they got to the diamond because they just didn't stop. Blindly just digging, never stopped. And I'm not telling you, like, yo, at no point you never ever, like, pivot or do nothing differently. But I'm saying most people never even get close to that point.
Right.
Like, you never even scratch the surface of, like, the level of pressure that you needed to, like, exert to really bust through that next barrier. I don't know. What do you think?
No, I mean, it's so much into that. I'd just like to wrap it up with not wrap up the whole show, but just wrap up, like, that point with the word endurance. Mm-hmm. Like, having the endurance, stick-to-itiveness, whatever word you want to use, to weather the ebbs and flows of business. Because what most people actually get into business during the times where things are, everything is good. That's when it's just like the stock market. Everybody's buying the stock when it's going up super high. When you see the little the rocket emojis in the group chats, that's when everybody's buying. But when everything is dropping, people also are dropping like flies from that business or from that stock or whatever. Yeah. And so that's the ebbs and flows, like I was talking about. So in the high moments, everybody is doing great, but who is still willing to stick through it when the moments are at the low points and people are trying to figure out how to make their how to continue to keep their business running? Most people are thinking that that's the time to start pivoting, but that's actually the time where the most millionaires are going to be. People are going to do that separation point. Yeah, that's where that's the point where that's going to happen, because now the dead weight, or the people that have experiencing the fake prosperity, they're going to be the ones that fall off, and now the people who stay are going to be the innovators. Are going to say, how can we stay relevant, and how can we service the need of the people that are still out here in the market that still need our services? And
that's how new businesses and new kind of, like you said, innovations come about.
Correct.
Because they were forced to.
Yeah.
Like you come to that's why a lot of great businesses are created in, like, times of turmoil. Like, you know, you see Uber and Airbnb, like, all these companies were created during that time.
I think about a company like Zoom, how they're, like, mainstream now, but they weren't necessarily before COVID. They were still a thing, but now they're like, okay, this is a perfect opportunity, like, to really get out there, because people are inside now. They could have no physical way to stay in communication, and, like, at least not in a group setting, when people, like, during COVID time. So now they are able to capitalize on the opportunity to now be, like, one of the main ways for communication, for, like, telecommunication.
Yeah, and it's, at the end of the day, it's capitalizing and just persevering, because I can guarantee you, if you never quit, then you will get, and it's cliche to say, and I don't like using cliches, but it's true. It's literally true. Like, if you don't quit and you literally are focused on that mission, you will get there. And I will say, one thing that really helps is just having people and having a community around you that specifically, and other people that are on a similar mission, because that helps you. Like, I know we were talking about earlier about being able to bounce ideas off of other people and stuff, like, and just talk, like, because everyone, you see things different. Like, everybody see things differently, and it's crazy. You can look at the same exact situation and see and have a different perception of it than someone else, but they're both valuable because they're different, and you can combine the two, and you never know what can come out of that. And having someone like that, or someone somewhere, some community or something, is going to help significantly in that time of, like, when that comes. Because I can tell you, like, when things is good and things is easy, you could do it solo.
Right.
There ain't nothing to it. But when it's tough and it's like you want to quit, and it's like, yo, that's when it's like having somebody that's like there, that's just going to prove, I'm telling you, it's going to help.
Yep, and I that's really a message to everybody who's a solopreneur and saying I'm a one man, one woman act and just doing everything yourself. It's so critical that you understand that times may not always be as great as they have been, and so whenever those are not, whenever that time is not the case, how are you going to be able to bounce back when you are in a lull yourself? Like, once you are like in a funk and not feeling yourself, like not feeling how you usually are, how do you bounce back from that? Because is there anybody to console you in those instances? That's why I highly always recommend either getting into community, finding somebody that's like-minded that you can work with, or even finding a coach, a mentor, anybody that can actually be a outside influence that has a similar mentality of growth. That's the absolute most important. It can't just be the person that based on proximity. It can't just be your next door neighbor. They may be able to give you advice, but how beneficial would that advice be if they don't have the same vision for where you're going? They may just be like, hey bro, just drop and get a job. Like, that's like, and
a lot of people will hear that and be like, dang, maybe I should.
Yeah.
And you just got the wrong advice, and now you back in the terror.
Versus a coach that says, oh no, this part of your business you're not putting enough effort in into this particular space. If you put more effort in here, you can continue to scale. That's so same situation, different advice leads to different results. So that's why you have to find qualified people to work with. And that's why I'm like, fine, but that is so important to me. Whether it's a mentor, whether it's a friend tour, like somebody who's at the same level as you, but going on that journey together, that is pivotal, man, because that gets you out of a lot of stuff.
Oh my gosh, I would say, like, just in our journey too, so like the people that obviously having each other doing this together, that's been huge. And like, I know that if someone's on a similar mission, it's one thing to have someone that's like going to the same place, but if someone's on a similar mission, like we have the same mission and we're both focused on it, putting the same amount of energy and effort. I know it's like, no matter what, that person is committed to it. I could not talk to that person, and I know they're putting that effort in that focus, and they know I'm doing the same. Dude, that is a powerful.
I just thought of something really funny. So think about all of the failures we had in real estate. Or like the low moments. I think about like when you were working in this house, like in the 90-degree heat those days. Those are moments that at least you can laugh with somebody else and be like, bro, I'm struggling too. Like I just had to change out my AC unit or something like that. That actually makes it bearable.
Yeah, it does.
Like that is so. I'm even more adamant about this now. Like that. And then, I mean, especially with the losses, like let's say if you had a loss on a real estate deal, but you're the only one that took all that hit. Come on, man. Like it's a big difference as far as how you are able to weather through it and to keep on going.
Yeah, spreading that loss definitely helps. Spreading that loss around, it'd be like, ooh, at least it wasn't the whole thing.
It's like a misery loves company, but also at the same time, you can when y'all are growing together, it makes it fun at the same time to go through those lows and bounce back and get through it and then continue to press forward. All that becomes more enjoyable.
Yes, it's like. And even on another level is when it's like, this is just like, well, that's why I think I'm so blessed. And it's like, why we're so blessed is like, because for us, everything's organic. It was just like, it just was organic. But a lot of people, it's like, you're not going to have that.
Right.
And I know, to me, it's levels too. It's like, first you have someone that's, they're doing their own thing, but at least they're a similar mentality. Then you got someone on the same mission. Then you got someone that's actually like a close person to you.
Yeah, like, that's big.
Like, if you got all three of those, there's no way you're failing.
That's a golden point right there.
There's no
I
way.
ain't gonna lie to you.
So, and I'm not saying you have to have that, but I tell you, man, it makes this journey like, it makes it like, I would say probably at least 20 orders easy if I had to quantify it. That's why it's just, I don't know, it's a blessing, and like there's nothing I can say like, yeah, go find your best friend and like go do something. I'm not gonna say that, but like find someone that is at least has a similar mindset.
Yeah, I'm about to say I wouldn't say that particular thing like go try to make your best friend be somebody that is similar minded, because they have to really have that within themselves to really want to even do any of this stuff. So because for a lot of people that may be a deterrent, and so they'll be like, okay, I can't get anybody to come along with me, I'm just not going to do it. I will say in the beginning, you actually attract people by doing something.
That's true.
Like by going out and actually building something. Like let's say in the beginning of our rental car business, by me buying one car and just putting it onto the platform, like putting on like the Turo hire car and telling people that I'm doing that looks different immediately. And you're actually going to start attracting people that are curious about how you did it, and actually at some point, if you tell enough people, you may find somebody else that bought 3 cars, and now that you tell that person that I'm on a mission to get like 10. That now y'all have a similarity that y'all can both bounce ideas off of. Like, how you getting your cars? Where you marketing them at? Where you parking them at? Now y'all have a similarity that's going to allow y'all both to grow together. And then if one of y'all are struggling at any point in time, now you can give the other person ideas, or you can help them out through that situation. But it's about really taking action, no matter if you do have somebody next to you or if you're going alone. Right. Just by doing it, you are going to start building up that circle around you. So I think that's still big in itself. But I think you should still be actively looking, or at least you should really desire to find that somebody. Don't be the top dog in the room. Don't be the person that everybody's looking up to, but you have nobody to help you out when it's needed.
Yeah, man, that's the key here, and that to me, like those are really like. I think, well, those are what, 2 aspects
that was 2 so far. I had one more. This was
which one?
This is very important. When I think you mentioned before, like with just thinking from a customer perspective. I was about to say knowing how to deal with people, because as an entrepreneur, I think a lot of your success will be contingent on getting the right, like having resources and being able to be resourceful, like with different people and building different relationships. Like for me in a rental car business, I can't like me going to like the International Car Rental Show. That's nothing but a lot of different people that's in the industry that are at where I'm at, or at where I'm trying to get to, and now I need to utilize them as resources. Right. And same thing with even in the very beginning phases, finding mentors, or just like continuously finding different people that you can learn from more so anything else. And then at the same time, understanding that your business is probably going to be predicated on customers. So if you don't get any customers, you're not going to have any business. So understanding how can you be the most valuable person or most valuable business to that customer to make them continue to come back to you. Like I think that's very big in itself as far as
the DNA or makeup of entrepreneur.
Yeah, there you go. The DNA and makeup of an entrepreneur. You really have to have a knack for like continuously being resourceful with either people, like with mentors, or really knowing how to communicate well to customers, or finding somebody in your business that can do that, because that really is what continues moving your business forward. Yeah, that's been something that's actually what we built our business around, is not necessarily renting out cars, but renting out an experience. Right. Because that's what we've seen has been the most successful for getting repeat bookings and even referrals. And so continuously finding ways to be innovative, and like how can we service our customers better, or even how can we find another person to help us get to the next level in our business. Like it's not about that's where the who not how mentality came from for me. It's like continuously seeking out who knows the information rather than how can I figure out the information from all by myself. So your
biggest thing you're saying is having like a people approach in everything. So yes, with your customers you have a people approach, and with growing the business, you have a people approach, as opposed to just having like a straight up like, profits or whatever is the next thing. Yes,
like I'm very, very big on that, because that has a lot of our success has come from like leveraging or utilizing other people. Ever since we hit like 9 or 10 cars last year, like a lot of that was just done by us doing it ourselves. But then we started saying, okay, it's hard for us to grow anymore with our personal name. As an example, like we have purchase all those cars in our personal name, like 10 cars straight. Yeah. Now you get to the point like the guy with the 37 cars, he has no more room to buy any more cars in his personal name. We didn't really have much either, and we didn't really want to. Yeah. So now it's like, okay, how can we grow beyond this? That's where the partnerships came into play. Like I need other people to get to the next level. And so now building those relationships became key, and I started seeing that more, especially as we started moving away from just a straight Turo space. Because now, who is there that's outside of the Turo space that's operating at a high level that it may not be a lot for ourselves. So that's why we start seeking other people that are in the industry that are doing it at a higher level, like people who work for Enterprise, people who work for Hertz, and start networking with those people. So a lot of our success has been predicated on finding the right information from the right people who do know what you're trying to learn for yourself.
No, that's real, and I think, to tie that all together, the biggest thing to understand is that your income in general in life, at all aspects of life, all stages of life, is tied to the network that you have. Yeah. And how connected are you to other people? It's like, because think about it, as a 9-to-5 worker, as an employee, your income is solely predicated on yourself. Like your income, your salary is all based off of what you do. As long as you do what you do, you're going to. Sometimes you don't even have to do what you need to do, and you're still going to get paid. Like your income is only attached to you. But if you want to even make more income outside of that, you have to get connected and do more with more people. And again, it gets to a point where your income it can get capped again at a higher level. Yep. It's like if you look at someone like I don't want to use like the typical Jeff Bezos example or something, but a high level entrepreneur, their income, let's say you make $500,000 as an entrepreneur in a year, and you did that with a network of 5 people or 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 people. To get to 6 million, you can probably add a few people, but to get to 10 million, 50 million, 100 million, your network is going to have to go a lot further. Yeah. And when I say network, I'm not saying the amount of people. I'm just saying the people you're talking to,
the caliber,
they gotta get to a different level. Yep. It's like we talk about with Magic Johnson and stuff like that. It's that same principle of that the bigger deals, it's a certain level of person that's doing those bigger deals, that's talking those bigger numbers, that's having those extra zeros. So if you want to get to that level, you have to somehow get. I'm not saying they have to be in your number one network, but I'm telling you, as billionaires, they're networked with other billionaires.
No doubt.
They might not be in the same industry, but they know other billionaires. I guarantee you, because they're the only ones that can understand their situation, number one. And they're the only ones that can help them get beyond where they are. Mm-hmm. They can't talk to someone that's making 5 million, or 10 million, or even 100 million and say, how do I get to the next level? I already did that. I already know how to get to 100. If I want to get to 100 billion, who I got to talk to? To Warren Buffett, Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk. It's a levels to it. If I want to be the richest person in the world, then you gotta go figure that out on your own.
It's to Magic Johnson's point too. You have to be willing to put in the effort to get to a certain level to where you're gonna be qualified to talk to that next person. Yeah. So for us, I'm gonna continue to talk about these lenders. Those lenders, I remember talking to one, they was like, yeah, come back when you got 2 years of experience. Mm. And they you haven't qualified yourself to even have that conversation. Matter of fact, no. The one I spoke to at the International Car Rental Show, they said come back when you have 3 years of experience, 3 years of tax returns, 3 years of income statements, balance sheets.
They said we're not dealing with you.
Right. But she was a key though, because at the same time, she said, you can't work with us, but we'll give you other people that you can't work with that maybe not be at the same level as we are. Yeah. But after you work with them, you can at least have proven yourself in that regard to get into that next level. Now you've qualified to work with the next level. Yeah. So it's about finding the resources that are at your current level or a level above to get you to the next level. And then now you can start looking at the resources that are above there too.
But I think that alone is a great, again, kind of going back to the overarching theme of the DNA or the makeup of an entrepreneur. You understand that things are in levels, and you understand that I'm on one level right now, and the people I'm around, they're on a similar level. But when I get to that next level, I'm at the bottom of that level.
Yes. Oh my gosh, very much so.
I'm at the bottom.
It's like a mountain. You climb to the top of a mountain, then you look over there's a bigger one on the other side of it.
You think you got to the top, but it's there was another huge peak that you got to ascend. Yeah. And to me, having that kind of thinking, that perspective helps you understand that there's always another person or network that I can connect with to get help me get to that next point, right? Because that, if I got here, everything I did to get here might not necessarily work to get me to that next peak. I have to now not necessarily do something different, but I need to talk to different people to see how did they get to the next.
That is really that simple. That's the $1 million answer for me, is seeking out who is at the next level and how can I tap into them to get to where they have been. Yeah. And sometimes it's for me. I mean, it's been so many informal conversations just over the phone, calling and just trying to qualify for certain things, seeing what do I need to qualify to be in that conversation. And it's, I mean, but that is the entrepreneurship part, is thinking of that solution. Yeah. Like that took a level of thought process to say, how can I get in touch with these people that have the answers that I'm seeking? And now I started weighing out my options and say, okay, I need financing. I'm going to talk to a lender. Yeah. I mean, it's a simple answer, but that part of just having a problem and coming up with your own solutions. That's part of the thinking part of the entrepreneur, is being presented with some type of adverse situation and having to figure out a way out of it.
And that's why, like, in this whole, we're in like a whole course kind of economy, like where, like, you know, it's kind of like, I look at it as like from employee to entrepreneur through a course. It's like, that's kind of like the theme of kind of the last few years, like course creation, like TikTok, all that. Like it's like a huge place, but the downfall of that is that
that's good.
A lot of people kind of, you use that as like, okay, this is the holy grail. And this is how I get to, like, oh, okay, at least I can use this to at least to get to that level or to get to here. But you don't understand that it's like, this is just a thing to get started. Like, it's not the holy grail of the business. Like, and that's why it's like, when I see people that try to do kind of what we do and stuff like that, it always throws me off, because it's like, I don't, that's fine. You can like copy whatever, do it, whatever. Like, I'm not going to tell you nothing, but it's just interesting to me, because it's like, okay, you can copy someone up to a certain point, but when it gets to another point where you're facing a problem that they haven't faced or something like that, or even a situation where it's like, oh, this wasn't covered in a course or something like
that, is
how do you, like, as an entrepreneur, what are you going to do? A lot of people, what they'll do is just respond as an employee. And either quit because there's no instructions, or you're going to go try to ask them, and it's like, bro, I haven't dealt with that. Like, that's for you to solve. You're the entrepreneur. Like, that is your job. Like, this, I gave you the blueprint to get started. You got something, right? I got you the blueprint to get started. But for you to go beyond that, or, you know, to get to the next level, that's for you. And even then, to get started, I think a lot of people still look at it as like, I need to do exactly this. I need to do it just like this, the way they said to do it in this course, to be able to have success. This is just their way they found that worked for them. You could buy that course and it might not even work for you.
Oh, that's plays out many times. Like, everybody's situation is different. You may live in a different state. You may have be operating under different laws. Like, anything could stop your success from being exactly how theirs was.
Yeah, bro. And that's, to me, that as like, when people come in with the employee mindset, that is something that's going to keep you from being successful, is because you look at it as like, I need to do everything exactly like this. This is how I'm going to grow, get to the next level, get financial free. But you're not thinking like, okay, this gives me at least a starting point. Now I can figure it out, and now I can like kind of add my own flavor and do my own thing and figure out my own kind of way to do it that works for me, versus like, oh, if it didn't work this way, then it doesn't work.
I think I see an analogy that can relate it like to school in a way. Like, you have teachers at every grade level, and you need to understand that your first teacher was not the person that taught you college. Your first teacher they might have been kindergarten or first grade. And so they got you to be qualified to go to second grade, but they're not going to teach you second grade too. You had to find the next teacher. And so without finding that teacher, or without knowing you have to find a teacher, you're going to keep asking the first grade teacher about how to do 12th grade problems. And they're not going to be teaching you that stuff, because they're like, I haven't solved that problem, or I don't teach that. I may not be qualified to do that. So you need to know that you need to find the next person and continuously seek that out once you have exhausted all the resources that you can from the first mentor.
Right. And that's the key. And so I think, to me, I don't know, I think that was a good list.
I think that's a strong list right there.
What was that? So we said the number one thing was thinking. Thinking like an entrepreneur. So to reiterate, the DNA or the makeup of an entrepreneur, number one is thinking like an entrepreneur, having that, you know, forward thinking mentality. Number two was what?
I feel like it was along the lines of stick-to-itiveness.
The perseverance. The perseverance. And then number three was the networking. And having, you know, that people approach. And then number four was just understanding that, you know, I
think it ties into number 3. I think those are the main 3. But I make a note.
I know we talked about I think I said levels. There was levels to it.
Yeah.
Where I said, you know, just understanding.
So that's understanding on number 3 was the networking. So understanding that there's levels to that network, especially when you are looking at the elevation portion of it rather than the customer service portion.
Yeah. So this was all. We just came up with this kind of on the spot. That's how you know we just kind of freestyle.
Yes, sir. So now, but if you looked at episode like 27 or something, we'd have had the whole script laid out.
Hey, that's all premeditated,
right?
But again, there's levels to it. But yeah, I think that's all, you know, we have for y'all today. There's not really much. I don't think we had any questions for Ask the Monopolizers this week. So yeah,
take it or leave it, if anything. But I think we kind of wrapped it up, though.
Y'all got a good look at that.
Yeah.
About what you need to do. My take it or leave it is go listen to the episode again. Just go hit rewind and go back 30 minutes.
My take it or leave it is listen to core problem number 1. What's this list called?
The DNA or the makeup of entrepreneur.
So listen to step 1. Yeah, that's my main one. I think that's more than anything else. That step 1 leads to the rest, in my opinion.
Yeah, thinking.
Yes,
understand how to think like an entrepreneur. If you can think like an entrepreneur, the rest will come into play. Because
the
rest only come if you think like an entrepreneur.
Correct. So that's it for me.
Cool. Well, that is it for this episode of the Money Monopolizers podcast. New episodes will be released every Thursday and will be available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. Just search Money Monopolizers wherever you listen to podcasts. If you enjoyed this episode, we appreciate if you rated us 5 stars and left us a review on Apple Podcasts. You can also find out more info about us on Twitter on IG at Money Monopolizers or Twitter at the Monopolizers. We post informative content on there that'll keep you engaged, so be sure to check that out and share those posts. But until then, we're out of here.
You've been listening to the Money Monopolizers podcast, helping you take control of your financial destiny. To learn more about how you can be in control of your money, visit moneymonopolizers.com. We'll catch you next time when Alex and Marlon share more personal finance and wealth creation tips with you. Now it's time to take action.